Hello and welcome to Find Happiness, a podcast dedicated to exploring the many ways we can find joy and contentment in our lives. We're so glad you're joining us today, whether you're seeking ways to improve your own happiness or just looking for some inspiration and guidance. We hope you will find something valuable in our discussions. So sit back, relax, and let's start on our journey to finding happiness together. Today, we are privileged to have with us Terina Maldonado, a survivor of sexual assault, child abuse, and high-demand religion. Terina has generously agreed to share her story with us and offer her high insights and experiences to our listeners. Terina has faced unimaginable challenges and has shown incredible strength and resilience in her journey of healing, and recovery. We are grateful to have her on the Find Happiness podcast, and we know her story can offer hope and support to others who are struggling with similar experiences. Welcome, Terina.
Honey, thank you for having me on your podcast. I'm so excited to be here with you and your listeners today.
Yeah, same here, same here. So here we go. Could you share your experience with abuse and assault and how it has affected you emotionally and mentally?
Yeah, so I grew up with parents who chose not to break the cycle of abuse, and they continued that in our home. My dad has mental disorders, so he has been diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder as well as bipolar disorder. So that, if you know anything about those, that combination is pretty rough one. So it was very unstable in my home as a child. There was a lot of violence and chaos and confusion, and so it actually, though, didn't, at the time when you're a child, you don't really know any different, right? It's what you've always known, it's what you've grown up with. And so it took a while for me to go from saying, yeah, my parents were really strict, to realizing what I had experienced was actually abuse. And so I think that can be a really big thing to allow yourself to realize, is that what you've experienced actually was really traumatic and not just the way it is, or a hard thing. To really acknowledge that what you experienced was trauma can be really helpful in moving forward and seeking help on your healing journey. But to your question, how it's affected me, it definitely, when I turned 18 and had my first boyfriend, I didn't know red flags to look for, because a lot of those things were just familiar. The way that he treated me was similar to the way my dad treated me, and so it was normal, or the way my dad treated my mom. And so I didn't see those things as bad red flags. I just saw them as normal parts of life, right? And then he did end up assaulting me, and because I had been raised in a high demand religion that is so seeped in purity culture, it actually took me over a decade to realize that that's what it was, because I thought it was my fault. I thought that, sex before marriage is a sin. And so what I had done was sinful. I actually went and repented to my religious leader for what had happened. So when you grow up in a home that's filled with abuse and chaos, it can be really hard to even identify things that are harmful, because they feel so normal and familiar to you. And so I think that's part of the reason why people a lot of times perpetuate cycles, is because it's all that they've known, and it just feels familiar and comfortable. It might not be pleasant, but it feels familiar and comfortable.
Yeah, I get you. You must have been through a lot. I'm so sorry, but at the same time, I'm glad you're here to say this. I'm glad you're here to tell your stories, and we're really grateful to have you here. Honestly, we're really grateful. Yeah. So have you sought support or therapy to help you cope with the trauma you've experienced?
Definitely. After that relationship with that boyfriend ended, I was able to realize that it wasn't the type of relationship that I wanted. And I thought, I'm going to end up with somebody just like my dad if I don't do something to help myself. Okay. So at 18 was the first time that I went to a therapist, or maybe it was 19. And then I have been to therapists off and on throughout the years as I felt the need and as things have come up. That's something that I've learned throughout this journey is that there's no quick fix. There's no, at least in my experience, there's no one-time solution that's going to cure your depression and the unwanted intrusive thoughts. It's a progress, it's a journey. And as we become more healed, then we feel safe enough for other things to show up that need healed because we've healed some other things. And so I've been to many therapists throughout the years. I've also gone to support groups. I have utilized coaches to help me through different things. And those things have been tremendously helpful in my healing. And I would definitely recommend finding a coach or a therapist to help you if you are really struggling, or even an online support group specific to maybe what you're experiencing and what you're looking to overcome.
Okay, that's great. That's great. And that's why we have Find Happiness. You know, mental health cases are very, very expensive. Getting to see therapists, the cost is really high. So we're trying to use this medium to, you know, help people to not go from amber to red, and it will be easier for them to go back to green. And these messages and all that things we'll say would help them also to know that other people have experienced same thing and they can just get out of it. Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
So
And
how
I
have you?
know a couple of times I was
Okay.
not in a position where financially I could afford therapy, but I was definitely in the position where I
Exactly.
needed it.
Exactly.
And so I found that most universities have student therapists who need hours to get their degree. And a lot of times that's at no cost to the patient. And so I did that. They're usually overseen by a licensed therapist. So even if you're not in a space to be able to financially afford it, look around. There's also grants and there's scholarships for coaching programs sometimes.
Okay.
So, really don't give up on the idea of therapy if it's something that seems unattainable for you. Maybe get a little bit creative in how you pursue that.
I wasn't able to afford all this. I went through depression the hard way. I went through depression the hard way. I wasn't able to afford it at all. I spent sleepless nights outside. There are times where you can't sleep. There are times where you can't eat. There are times where you feel totally useless. So I understand what you're saying. And before the end of this session, you might just have to highlight these things again, so people who need this information will take them and find help as soon as possible. That's one of the reasons why we're really here.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are so many books that have been written with really
Okay.
actionable tools that you can take to work on your healing.
Mhm.
So again, if you can't afford a therapist, don't give up hope. There's still ways to work on your healing that can be free. You can get audiobooks, digital ebooks, physical books from your library most of the time. So just be persistent, be tenacious in your healing.
Okay. Yeah, we're speaking to the we're speaking to the audience anyway, because I'm fine.
Yes, speaking to the audience for sure.
Exactly. So how have you learned to cope with the aftermath of the abuse and assault, and what strategies have been most helpful for you in your healing journey?
So I have learned that for me, the most foundational piece is to really learn to love myself.
Exactly.
When I've learned so deeply that my worth and my value and my worthiness for belonging and love are
Mm-hmm.
not based on anything that I do or what anybody else says, that really has helped me to find a sturdy place to come from. And one of the tools that I found that's most helpful in cultivating that is self-care. And I think that a lot of us misunderstand or kind of missee what self-care is. A lot of times people think that it's just fluffy and something that, only people who have lots of money can do, or who have all the time in the world. And really, I have come to learn that self-care is not as much about the act or the thing that you are doing. It's more about the intention with which you go into what you're doing for self-care. So a lot of times we'll think about self-care and we think of massages and pedicures and getting coffee, and all of those things are beautiful and can be acts of self-care and self-love. But those are not sustainable. It's not financially or time-wise sustainable to get a massage every day, as much as I would love to.
I know.
So for me, self-care is about the energy and intention. So I will do something and I will tell myself that I'm doing it because I love myself and that it's something that I'm doing for me.
Exactly.
So if I have a really busy day and I'm not able to get in, a good chunk of time, I might take something that's a more routine part of my day, and with my intention, make that my self-care. So for example, if I know I've got a busy day, I'm not going to have a lot of time for self-care that day, I might take my cup of tea that I just love because it's delicious, but I will set it with the intention of I am enjoying this tea because I love it. And so it's a gift I'm going to give myself today to really enjoy this. And I bring in my senses and I just enjoy the smell of it. I enjoy the taste of it. I enjoy the hot cup in my hands, and I'm just present in that moment with the intention of I am enjoying this because I love myself today. And this is a treat I'm giving myself because I love myself. Or even something as simple as going outside, putting my feet in the grass, feeling the sunshine, and knowing I'm doing that because I love myself.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So you said self-care, but I was also going to say, use this word, learn to love yourself. Like, say nice things to yourself all the time. Like, one word I always say to myself is, and I'm going to ask you what you say to yourself, because I know you say words to yourself. I always say to myself, I am loved. So what do you say to yourself?
So affirmations can be really powerful in helping to rewire your brain.
Exactly.
And it's something that I was resistant to because it feels so cheesy. But I found that it really can be powerful. And so something that I will say to myself is I am whole and I am loved.
Wow. That's the word. I am loved. I say that, go to the mirror, look at yourself and tell yourself you're loved. It's a very big tool. Very big tool.
That's definitely a tool that I'll have my clients do, is mirror work, which can take affirmations to a whole new level, to look in the mirror and tell yourself, I love you because, and you can start slowly with like 30 seconds of doing it and work yourself up to where you can tell yourself reasons why you love yourself for 5 minutes in the mirror.
Wow. So to the listeners out there, you need to tell yourself reasons and say a lot of affirmations to yourself. Try to do it for 5 minutes, just like Terina said. I totally agree to this, because I say a lot of things to myself and it has helped me so far and brought me to where I am. That's why I'm able to come here to talk about finding happiness and, getting out depression. Nice one, Terina. Nice one. Okay, so how have you learned to, let's skip that. How have you worked to rebuild your sense of trust and safety after the abuse and assault?
So I love this question because it's something that we, as survivors and as those who are overcoming depression, can really struggle with. Yeah. And so I think that it is something that you can do mindfully. So just learning to listen to yourself can be really powerful. So this is an exercise that you can bring into your self-care, is every morning, take a moment of quiet stillness and ask yourself, what do I need for my self-care today? and trust that. There might be a day where you hear that you need to write in your journal. There might be a day when you hear that you need to just lay in bed and veg out and binge watch whatever show you want to watch. There might be a day when you hear that you need to clean your room because that's going to help you feel happier in your space. There might be a day where you feel that you need to reach out to a friend and just find that connection talking with somebody. But when you sit and listen, the answer will come of what you need that day. And the more you do that, the more you can trust that you know what you need. And so not just in the morning as far as like, what do I need for self-care, but taking the time to do that whenever you need guidance and instruction or inspiration, instead of turning to a partner or a family or friend, take a moment to sit with it yourself. And not to say that you're not going to discuss ideas and decisions and problems with other people, because we absolutely need that. We need the connection and we need that support in our lives. But when you're trying to rebuild trust, a lot of times you're going to turn to those people and you're not going to trust yourself, or you might ignore yourself. And so taking the time to sit with that question and really sit and listen for the answer. And a lot of times journaling can be a really great way to kind of receive that flow of inspiration from your own higher self. So I really encourage journaling, because that can be a really way to tap into yourself.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Great. I was going to make a lot of comments, but I know the audience will want to listen to you more. So I just need to make you tell them some more things. So how have you learned? Yeah. How have you learned to advocate for yourself and prioritize your own well-being looking back? Is there anything you wish you had known or done differently during your journey of healing and recovery?
So a couple of things that have really been helpful is embracing my story and my voice. And I do wish that I would have known this earlier, that the power of vulnerability to release shame is immense. Brene Brown has spoken that shame needs 3 things to survive, and one of those is secrecy. And so when you are able to share your story with somebody who has earned the privilege of hearing that, who's going to receive that with love and support and respect, that can go so far in healing and releasing shame. When I was able to talk to my sister and tell her, I am realizing and putting together this experience that I had like 13 years ago was assault. It really helped me to release some of the shame around that, because she was able to be validating for me, because there was a lot of shame around the fact that it had taken me a long time. Like, who doesn't realize that? Who doesn't know?
Yeah.
And so she was able to validate a lot of those things and remind me that with purity culture and the family that we were raised in, of course, it could have taken a while to realize, or of course, that could have been something that I missed. And so having that, having a person who loved me to hear me and validate me really helped to release some of the shame. So embracing your story and your voice really helps you to reclaim yourself, and you can rewrite the situation where you're the hero. So I think that having courage to embrace vulnerability and share your story with others who will love and support you is tremendous in our healing and our growth, and to be able to release shame. And I've also found that boundaries has been key for me in building a life that's full of joy and happiness. The more that I am able to communicate, the more I'm able to communicate to others what I need and want, what I will not accept in my life, the more beautiful my relationships have become, because we've been able to support each other in healthy ways. And I've been able to really cultivate a community of friends and family that help me have the life that I love, and help me have a life that brings me happiness and that's free of toxicity and drama and negativity. And so boundaries is hugely, hugely important. And I would say, what do I wish I would have known sooner? This is a really beautiful question. And I really wish that I would have known that it's a journey, not a destination. That
Yeah.
I don't have to identify myself as Terina who was abused or assaulted or who was in a high demand religion. I don't have to identify as Terina who is depressed. I can just be me, and those can be experiences that I've had. And as depression may try and poke its head back in, I now have tools to navigate that and manage that so I don't fall into the pit of despair. I now can see that the pit is there, and I know what I need to do to keep from falling in there. But that doesn't mean that I'm never going to pass that pit of depression again. I'm going to see that it's there. There might even be moments where I sit and I look at it, you know, but I now know how to not fall into that pit and get completely consumed by it. But that doesn't mean that there aren't feelings of depression or sadness that still come into my life. I think if I had known that, it would have helped me on my journey a lot better to know that this is a journey and it's not a destination. You don't pass go and arrive at healed and whole. And, you know, like when you experience really traumatic things, they're always going to be a part of who you are, but they don't have to determine who you are.
Exactly. You don't let it define who you are. You're who you are is you're loved, you're beautiful. And someone told me in the last episode I had, like, I asked her what kind of affirmation she says to herself. Like, she said, "Yeah, I am proud."
I love that.
I am proud. Yeah, I love that too. That's telling yourself, like, look at me. You know, there's no time for rubbish. Okay, yeah. So here we go. How do you hope your story can be a source of hope and support for others who may be struggling with similar experiences?
So my wish is that people will hear my story and maybe they hear myself or hear themselves in what I've experienced. And they'll be able to know that it really is truly possible, because I know what it's like to be in that space of just hopelessness and darkness and just not wanting to even get off the floor, of not feeling like you even want to eat, not feeling like you want to do anything that brings you joy because you're just so consumed by the pain and the darkness. I know what that is like. I have been there. And I know what it's like to hear other people say that it's possible to get out of that and think, maybe for you, but I don't know that that's possible for me. And so I want you to just hold on to the fact that it is possible. It's possible for you and it's possible for everybody. You just have to be persistent and keep trying and try different things. What has worked for me might not work for you, but that doesn't mean that you can't overcome your depression. It just means maybe you need to try different healing modalities, and maybe you need to try a little bit longer, a little bit more in certain areas.
Wow. Thank you very much. And now here we go to the high demand religion. Okay. Well, for context, a high demand religion refers to a faith tradition that demands a high level of commitment and can have strict rules and expectations for its members. I guess you agree with me.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so could you briefly describe your experience in a high demand religion and how it influenced your beliefs and relationships?
Absolutely. So I was born and raised in a high demand religion. So just like the child abuse, it was all that I knew. And so it was just what I had grown up with. And the question of how did it influence your faith and your relationships almost makes me laugh, because it was everything. it was intertwined in every aspect of my life. And
Wow.
when my husband and I discovered things that made it evident that it was not God's one true church, and
In
we
quotes.
left, right? And we left, it was utterly and completely devastating. It was like the foundation we had built our entire lives upon just crumbled, because every decision, every major decision we had made had been influenced by our religion. And so it was really untethering to be left with nothing, to not know. And a lot of the tools that I had used to help me through hard times, to help me in my healing from the abuse and the assault, were around my faith. And so then when that faith crumbled, it brought those back up as well. Are these things still okay if the reasons why they felt okay are gone? And
how does faith crumble?
Yeah, a prayer that had gotten me through a lot of hard times no longer felt like a resource to me as I was trying to figure all of this out.
Yeah, no, I know.
So it definitely influenced everything. And coming out of it, I had to learn so many things that made me feel really behind. As like a 36-year-old woman, I'm trying to figure out like what kind of clothes to wear, even down to my underwear, because they told us what kind of underwear we had to wear. And
wow.
trying to figure out like how to order a drink at a bar, because I'd never had alcohol before. Or how to even order a coffee at a coffee shop, because we weren't allowed to drink coffee. So,
wow.
And there was a lot of having to learn to trust myself again, because it felt very like, how was I so duped my whole life? Those feelings like, really, how did I believe this nonsense for so long? So there was a lot of having to rebuild faith in myself and trust in myself.
I totally understand this. I won't say I was really there, but where the part of the part of this world where I live, there are so many things like that, and people just carry religion on their head, and it takes away their identity. They forget themselves and just live by it, and which is very, very, very wrong. People grow up
really
and
is. And
yeah. Go ahead.
Really takes away your freedom to discover who you are
freedom is exactly.
And live life authentically, because you have to fit into this mold of the way the church leaders or God or whoever it may be prescribe your life to be led, when really there's no right or wrong way to live your life, as long as you're leading from a place of love and kindness to other human beings. Just live your life and be happy.
Right. Yeah. Just do the right thing and love your neighbor, and that's all you need to do, and don't carry religion on your head. If not, you go down crashing. When you realize it, to just you start asking yourself questions. How was I this gullible? How did I eat all this garbage? Well,
and I think when your entire identity is wrapped up in your religious beliefs, it really can lead to a lot of depression, because there are a lot of rules and regulations for how you should live your life, and that doesn't let you live a way that is truly authentic to who you are, which then makes you depressed, because you're not living life that you love. And so when you're able to step away from that and really tap in and discover who you are and what brings you joy and live that way, it's so much a more beautiful life.
Wow. That's so much. What advice would you have for others who may be struggling with their involvement in a high demand religion?
I would say trust yourself, because if I'm honest with myself, looking back, there were moments of questions, but leadership, the community, I was taught to just doubt those questions or not ask those questions, just put them away.
Yeah.
So trust yourself and follow those questions, and also look at it objectively. If you
Exactly.
were not in the middle of this and somebody shared everything with you that you know now, would you think it was weird? Would you question things? Would you think there were things that were not okay? And keep going with that. I would also let them know that it will be okay, because high demand religions often come with a lot of fear tactics. I know for us, we are told if you leave the church, you give up being with your family for eternity. You are not going to find happiness in this life. We were told that people who leave the church, their relationships end, people end up alcoholics, their kids end up, making lots of really poor choices.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say, don't listen to that. It's not true. You will be okay. Your family will be okay. It is perfectly possible to have a beautiful, happy life without religion. And
Happy life.
you can raise good, happy humans, children, without religion. And it is possible.
Yeah, it is. It is. I agree with you. I totally agree with you. Okay, so how do you hope to use your experience to help others who may be going through similar challenges?
So I now offer life coaching for individuals who are ready to live an authentic life, to feel empowered to speak their truth and to communicate their choices with others without feeling fear. Because a lot of times when you're coming out of toxic relationships or environments, there can be a lot of fear around sharing these new healthy choices with other people. And so my one-on-one coaching program is called Authentic You, and I help people to feel empowered to make decisions in their life that make them happy without fear of living up to the expectations of family, society, religion, just living up to what makes them happy.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, before we wrap up, would you mind sharing your social media handles with our listeners so they can connect with you?
Yeah.
You can also share any other ways they can contact you, such as through a website or email.
So the best place to go would probably be my website, which is my name, TerinaMaldonado.com. From there, there's links to all of my social media, which I like to have fun on social media and share really uplifting, fun things. And so you can find me on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and just kind of join me there if you want more information on self-care, self-love, boundaries, living authentically. I really that's my jam, to share all that yummy goodness with people on social media.
Wow, that's great. That's great. Oh, wow. So thank you so much for joining us on the show today and sharing your story with us. Your bravery in sharing your experience with child abuse, sexual assault, and a high demand religion is truly inspiring. And your journey of healing and recovery is a testament to your strength and resilience. Honestly, your insights and perspectives have been invaluable to our listeners. I suppose, and we are grateful for the opportunity to help spread your message of hope and support to others who may be struggling with similar experiences. We're honored to have you on the show and hope to have the opportunity to speak with you again in future. Thank you again for sharing your story with us, Terina. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lawani.
So much.
It's been a wonderful conversation.
You want to say something? Go ahead, please. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I was just saying thank you. It's been a beautiful conversation.
Yeah. Okay. So this concludes our show for today. We are grateful to all of you for listening and joining us on the journey towards self-care and mental well-being. Remember to prioritize your own well-being and seek support if you need it. We hope you'll join us again for our next episode. Until then, take care of yourself and keep striving for happiness. Thank you.